All right, welcome. So, this is how to see your goals through. This video is going to teach you exactly how to actually see to it that your goals are completed, not just how to set goals, not how to write them down, not how to create like these processes, but how to actually see it through, right? How to actually make it to the end point, how to achieve these goals and actually complete them. Whereas most people tend to set goals, but they never actually really progress towards them. They never make consistent enough progress towards those goals in order to really achieve them. So this video is going to teach you exactly how you can actually go ahead and achieve your goals, how you can actually go ahead and set them, create a plan, create a process, and take action on that plan and process to the point that you complete that goal. And then I'm also going to talk about how you can then set new goals and keep progressing, keep moving forward, right? Because you don't want to just achieve one goal that you have and then stop there, right? Typically, everyone who has a masculine core will have this consistent drive to achieve something greater than what they've already achieved. And so it's important that you set goals, you work consistently towards them and achieve them, and then set higher goals, higher aspirations. So before we start the video, if you guys want to make more progress on your self-improvement journey, if you want more content and education on how to do self-improvement, all of the different pieces and parts of self-improvement, go ahead and click the link in the description. That'll bring you to my Instagram page, and you guys can send me a DM and ask for early access to my Academy of Self-Mastery program. Inside this program, I will have tons of courses, in-depth courses on all of the different aspects of self-improvement, including routine, habits, diet, fitness, dopamine detoxing, sexual transmutation, and a lot more. So if that is something you're interested in, you guys can go and click the link in the description. And if you want one-on-one coaching to transform your life through self-improvement, to take your goals and break them down into an action plan, a process that you can use in order to move towards and eventually achieve those goals, same link, go to my Instagram, DM me, and you can ask for my one-on-one coaching as well. If you guys are interested in that, you can go ahead and send me a DM, like I said, and I'll get you guys sorted from there. Now, I want to quickly talk about the first goal that I really achieved. I had set goals plenty of times prior. I had plenty of goals that I was trying to work towards over the years, but I was never actually able to fully stick to them, fully complete them, and they were always very vague, right? There wasn't anything specific that I could actually tangibly point towards as the achievement of these goals, right? They were very vague, not very clear, and inconsistent, right? I would set one goal, not really move towards it, set a completely different goal, not really move towards that either, and so on and so forth. And obviously, I was a kid, I had no clue what I really wanted. I was just kind of trying different things within self-improvement, but I had a general idea of what I wanted to achieve, yet I never made consistent progress towards it because A, I wasn't clear, and B, I didn't have these tools or these steps in order to take what was a goal that I'd written on my piece of paper or in my phone, whatever it was, take that goal that I had written down and actually break it down into a process that I can use in order to achieve it. And so what happened was about 7 to 8 months ago, I decided that I was going to create a new process. I was going to create a new daily organizer. I was going to create a new morning routine. And I basically started over on my self-improvement. And what I did with this was I wrote my goals down every single day. That was one of the parts of this new daily organizer that I have. And what that ended up with was writing them down every day allowed me to then think about them more consistently. I was able to make them more concise, able to make them tangible things that I can actually create a result within. And so from there, I said, okay, I have these goals. These are clear goals. I can actually tangibly see how these can be manifested. I can break them down into their processes, like the daily steps, the tasks that I have to complete in order to move towards this goal. And I was able to break it down into daily tasks, a process. I was able to see how it was able to be achieved. And mainly, I was sticking to commitment to it every single day. I had a plan in place, and I was following through on that plan. And so what happened was this previous snowboarding season, I've had many goals within snowboarding over the years, but this year I decided to set a very specific goal, and it was basically 100 clean runs, meaning no falling, no nothing, no falling or bobbles or anything like that. 100 clean runs through my local resort's main jump line, right? So there's 3 jumps in a row, and my goal was to do 100 runs where I clear all 3 of those jumps and I land clean, and from there. The intention was, by doing this, I would basically progress through my fears of hitting these jumps. All of these jumps were bigger jumps than I'd ever hit before. So it was our large jump line. So I was breaking down fears, breaking down walls and barriers, mental barriers, and the goal was I would naturally start to learn some of the tricks that I want to learn by getting more comfortable with the jumps through repetition, right? So therefore, I had decided specifically what I was going to do, why I was doing it, how it was going to get me closer to my real end goal. And what I did was consistently, every single day, from the time those jumps opened until the time they took them down, I would run through those jumps for basically every run that I had each day, right? I would do some warm-up runs. I love the glades. I love riding through the woods and stuff. We had a lot of powder this year, so I wasn't on the jumps every day. There was plenty of other things that I wanted to do as well. But for the most part, I focused on just making it through those jump runs. And what happened was, as it would make sense, I had a goal, I had a process, I had steps, and I stuck to committing to doing just a little bit every day, right? I was just focused on one run at a time, right? But just every single day, consistently putting in the reps to get it done. And then eventually I got through 100. And obviously, this is a goal that's specific to repetitions, right? It's just 100 repetitions here. But any goal is the same idea. If you create the plan and you persistently work towards that plan, you will be able to achieve the goal, right? If you have, let's say, my action step for achieving my income goal and my subscriber count goal, the action step is to create content. So if I am persistently every single day taking steps towards creating different kinds of content, whether it be YouTube videos or it be courses or it be writing the scripts, by consistently and persistently taking action, I can then guarantee that eventually I'll be able to reach my goal, right? So that's the next goal I'm working towards, is my new income goal and my current subscriber count goal. So to achieve my money goal and my subscriber goal, I have to persistently and consistently work on creating content, right? So every single day I have to work on creating content to some degree. And if I do that, right, if I stay consistent with that, I can guarantee results, right? And so this is going to be a full guide on how to actually achieve these goals, how to see them through, how to follow through. And I'm going to be teaching you what I did in order to actually complete my first real goal. Obviously, I've done a lot of things in my life that I could count as goals, but the first one that I wrote down, worked towards, and then achieved, right? How I was actually able to do that, how I was able to follow through on that intention that I'd set. So the first thing is why goals always stay on a piece of paper, right? Why your goals only ever exist on a piece of paper and not in reality. This is because when we write goals down, we are essentially planning, we are essentially creating a plan, but we're giving ourselves a little bit of dopamine, right? When we speak about our goals, we're giving ourselves a little bit of dopamine. The same dopamine that we would receive from working towards that goal. So I'm not saying that writing your goals down is bad, but I am saying that writing your goals down is oftentimes a cope for not working towards them. If you know what your goal is, right? If you know what you're trying to achieve, you don't need to sit here and write it down 1,000 times, right? You don't really need to even write it down once. If it's something that you're thinking about constantly every single day, you don't really need to write it down. You don't need to have it on a piece of paper. You really won't forget about it. If it's truly your purpose, if it's truly the thing you want to achieve, you won't just forget about it magically, right? I've never written on a piece of paper that I want to be a professional snowboarder. Okay, I probably have written on a piece of paper, but it's never been an actual set goal of mine that I've written down and I've actively worked towards. It's just been something I've always known in my mind was what I wanted to do, right? It's just something that I've always had. I've always had that desire. I probably always will have that desire. Even if I end up 60 years old and having no progress towards it, I will still probably want to do it. It's something that is just ingrained into who I am because it's been one of my favorite sports of all time. And I just, I fell in love with the elite level of the sport, right? I fell in love with the high-end tricks, right? The quadruples, the 2100 or the 2160s, the 1800s. I fell in love with the bigger tricks within the sport. I fell in love with the flow of the sport, right? Everything tied together to be me as an individual. I want to do this thing, right? Since that desire has always been with me, I've never really had to write it down. I've always just naturally worked towards it, right? Every summer, my main thing I'm thinking about is training. Every winter, the main thing I'm thinking about is snowboarding and riding. And that's just been consistent throughout my lifetime. So I haven't needed to write it down. I've just always worked towards it. Now, should I have written down specific goals within that and worked towards those? Would I have made more progress? Yes. And is that what I'm doing now to make more progress? Yes, absolutely. But writing your goal down is not the main thing you need to do in order to work towards it, right? What you need is an action plan, and specifically you need action, right? For someone who hasn't taken real tangible action in the last 6 months to a year, you don't need a whole plan. You don't need to even write your goal down, right? You need to understand what the goal is, what is it you're trying to achieve, and then you might need to write the next 3 steps max, right? You might need to write, okay, well, I need a laptop if I'm going to build a business. If you don't even have a laptop, right? Basically, start from where you're at. Create a plan of maybe 3 steps. Okay, I don't have a laptop, but I want to start drop shipping or I want to start YouTube. All right, well, I need to buy a laptop, and then I need to find a product or write a script. And then I need to market that product or record a video. Those are the 3 steps. And until you can complete those 3 steps in succession, you shouldn't really be planning to, create the entire 6-month plan to achieve your goal, because you can't even take action on 3 basic steps, right? So the reason why goals stay on a piece of paper is because you can set the goal all you want. You can have the vision all you want. You can dream on all that you want. But goals without a plan are just dreams, as I said. So you cannot make a goal, you cannot set a goal beyond what you can actually achieve. And what that means is beyond what you can conceptualize in your head, a plan and a process for. And then beyond that, what you can actually take action on in the moment, right? If you can set a goal, but you can't visualize a plan or a process to go from where you're at to there, well, it's an unrealistic goal. There might have to be 1 or 2 goals or transformations in between where you're at and where you want to go. So therefore, that shouldn't be your goal right now. But if you can conceptualize the plan and the process, but you can't actually visualize or even actually do it, but you can't take action on it, right? You can't see yourself taking action, or you can't physically take the action to do it and follow through on that plan. Well, again, the goal is beyond what you're capable of right now. So a lot of times people set goals that are beyond what they're actually capable of achieving in this moment. They set goals that are too high, too ambitious, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that you need to break it down a little bit more in order to actually make progress towards it. So for example, I couldn't set the goal to make $100K a month if I have 0 a month income, right? Because how are you going to make that massive jump if you don't even understand how to make 10K or 20K, right? You want to be able to start from where you're at. So if you want to achieve $100,000 a month, I'm not saying don't go for it. I'm saying start with 5 or 10, whatever is realistic for you in the moment, right? And you start there, and then you actually make progress towards that. And then once you've achieved that one, then you set a slightly higher goal, right? Let's say I achieve 10K a month. Well, now it's 50. And then I hit 50, and now I can go to 100. And the jump from 50 to 100 is way simpler, way easier than the jump from 0 to 100, for obvious reasons. That's why you never actually create or experience these goals, is because they're a little bit beyond where you're actually at, where you're actually capable of. So the way we fix this is by taking the goals that we have and breaking them down into an action plan. Right, so we need to take whatever the goal is, whatever it may be, a certain income, a certain skill unlocked, or a certain, winning a certain competition, whatever. We have to see that goal, right? We have to be able to visualize it in our mind. We have to be able to see achieving it. We have to be able to write it down and see it on paper. And the whole last section was not shitting on writing your goals down. It was essentially pointing out the fact that writing them down is not the step required to achieving them. Writing them down is just helpful as a reminder. But you write your goals down, and then if you write your goals down, the step that you're missing by just writing them down is you need to then create an action plan associated with those goals, right? So now we take the goal that we have, we visualize it, we can see ourselves achieving it. Well, now we break it down into an action plan that we can then use in order to achieve said goals. And this action plan can look like a bunch of different things. It can look like a daily routine and a daily schedule, which I will say I think is the most effective. It can look like non-negotiables for each day, so maybe we block out a period of time for work. Or it can look like a outline of the different projects that need to be completed in order to achieve this goal, right? So whatever it actually looks like for you, you take your goals and you break them down into a step-by-step process that you can then use and follow in order to achieve those goals. I do this with all of my goals. Every single goal that I set, I break it down into an action plan and a process. And the last thing is full commitment and focus. If you want to achieve anything in life, you need to be fully committed to doing it, and you need to have the focus required in order to see it through, in order to completely and utterly complete and achieve this goal, this vision, whatever it is you're setting out for. So now I'm going to get into goal setting and achievement, right? This is going to be a full breakdown of how you can actually see your goals through, how you can achieve your goals, and how to set goals. So first things first, set your sights on a clear, definable goal. What does this mean? This means set your sights on a clear, which means a very obvious, very straightforward, not confusing, not vague, but specific and clear goal, meaning you have a very clear picture of what that would look like, meaning you have a full understanding of what is involved with it, right? It's not a confusing thing. If I said it to you, I wouldn't confuse you, right? If I say I'm going to be a professional snowboarder, unless you don't know shit about snowboarding, it's not very likely to confuse you, right? You can conceptualize and understand, okay, he gets paid to snowboard. Basic enough. I want to achieve 10K a month in my business. Okay, you can visualize what that would look like. You can see what that would look like, right? Versus, I want to be better at my sport, or I want to get rich. That's not a goal. I want to get rich is not a goal. It is maybe a desire, but it's not a goal because it's not clear. You can't conceptualize and visualize what rich would look like. You may have a picture in your head, an idea in your head, but that isn't a clear idea because my image of rich might not be your image of rich. Versus my image of 10K, $10,000 is going to be the exact same as your perception of what $10,000 means and is, right? One of us may view that as more or less money. right? It may have more value to me because maybe that's, a lot of money to me. I don't see that much money, and it may have no value to you. You may make that 10 times every month. But the point is, $10,000 is $10,000. So no matter what value we put on it, we can both conceptualize that it's $10,000. Versus rich for someone could look like $1 billion. Rich for another person could look like $1 million, right? So you have to be clear. You have to be specific. And the next part is definable. You have to be able to define it, right? And that's ties into the same thing. If you can't define what it is that you're trying to achieve or get, I want to be better at my sport. Well, you can't define what that means. The way that you set a goal is to break it down. So you want to be better at your sport. All right, well, what sport do you even play in the first place? Then, well, what position do you play? Then, well, what would be something that you could achieve within that sport that would prove you've gotten better? Right? So let's say it's soccer and you're a striker. Well, that means making goals is how you measure how good you are as an athlete. So if you average a goal every game, or maybe like 5 goals every season or something like that. Let's say it's 5 goals a season. You're pretty I'm just kidding. You're a pretty dog shit striker. You average about 3 to 5 goals a season. Now, if you want to make a clear, definable goal for you to get better as a soccer player, specifically as a striker, you could set the goal for next season. I want to make 15 goals in my season, right? I want to average 15 goals. Or, sorry, not average, but I want to make that throughout an entire season. And I correct myself the first time as well. Not average of 3 to 5, but a total of 3 to 5 in a season. But if you want to make 15 goals in a season, well, that's going to triple where you are at currently, right? So that's a way to measure how skilled you are, and then how to measure how much your skills increase over time. So you want to clearly define the goal. And then obviously the example of I want to get rich, define it as an actual income goal. So if rich to you is $1 million a month, well, you have to define that as $1 million a month, right? You can't just sit here and say you're going to be rich, because that's unrealistic. If you say you're going to make $1 million a month, well, now you might understand, shit, that's a lot of money. And 2, you might understand that, okay, there are these specific steps required in order to achieve that, right? Versus if you just claim you want to be rich, that's the goal, is I want to be rich, right? You could consider yourself rich at any point, right? You could consider yourself rich at any point in making more money, because as soon as you get comfortable, you consider yourself rich because you have enough money to cover everything. Right? But that's not true wealth for obvious reasons. And for those watching these kinds of videos, I hope you know that's not true wealth. However, if your goal was to make just $10K a month and be comfortable, well, that's kind of valid, right? That makes sense. You can conceptualize that. But if your goal is you want to be rich and wealthy, then you want to break it down into the steps to get there. So like if you have no money right now, but you want to be rich, $1 million a month, well, you have to set realistic goals and work towards those goals step by step in order to achieve that goal of yours, right? So you have to start at maybe 10K a month, then 100, then $1 million, right? You have to multiply it each time. But this tangible, definable goal would be $1 million or 100K a month, instead of the tangible goal being I want to be rich. Because again, you can't conceptualize that, and therefore it's impossible to break that down into a genuine action plan. Now, the next thing is to write it down and visualize yourself already having it. So have it written down somewhere and visualize yourself not getting the thing in the future, but having it now, right? Oof. Visualize yourself as if you have already achieved it, right? And feel what that feels like. Feel what that state of being is like. See what that version of you is like, right? Observe what that version of you looks like, what he does, who he is, right? And then you go from there to deciding what steps you can take to achieve this vision. So once you've seen the version of yourself that has this goal, right, that has achieved it, what he looks like, how he lives, who he is on the inside and outside, right? You break that down into now, okay, what steps can I take from here in order to then move towards and eventually achieve that goal? Now, create a plan. Create your action plan, your process for moving towards and eventually achieving that goal. And then you just need to take immediate action, right? Once you have that plan in place and created, you don't need to wait. There's nothing to wait for, right? You need to take immediate action and stay consistent. And so the last thing, this is the real key, right? This is how we ensure that we see it through, which is hyper focus on this goal until you complete it. Don't write it down, create the plan, take some action, and forget about it. Hyper focus, meaning direct all of your attention, all of your mental energy towards this specific goal. And then keep that going, right? Keep that focus and attention steady until you have achieved that goal, until you've broken through the barriers of achievement. The reason this is so important is because when we make some progress but then lose focus, we become stagnant, we become stuck, right? We actually lose progress in this process more than we gain. So therefore, we cannot allow ourselves to become distracted. We need to maintain clear focus in order to actually achieve this goal and move towards it in a consistent and tangible way, right? And so the last thing here I'm going to give you is just some tools that you can use for this journey, right? What are some tools that can just make this process easier? The first thing is the daily organizer. I use this. It's something I did steal from another YouTuber. I'm pretty sure he said in a video that we're allowed to take it and use it anyways, but I did steal it from another YouTuber and renamed it because, I'm not going to steal the actual full concept, the full idea. That's his original thing. But I did take the, what it actually is and the why for using it, because it's very valid, very cool. And I just renamed it the Daily Organizer because I don't have anything better to call it unless I copy his name for it. But I did steal this from another YouTuber, but I've been using it for almost a year now, and it's amazing. But I call it the Daily Organizer. It's essentially just, I have a notebook, one journal, that on the left-hand side, I have my goals, which I have 5 of them right now. I have my morning routine with little check boxes next to them so I can check it off every morning as I go. And then I have my daily tasks, basically my to-do list for the day, specific to the goals that I have. So I have my goals. I have a morning routine that's going to get me into a flow state and get me ready to complete my tasks for the day. And then I have tasks specific to the goals that I have set in order to achieve them. Basically, all of my daily steps in order to move towards and eventually achieve my goals. This is a very good way to track your goals, track your progress towards them, and keep yourself in alignment with your goals at all times. I use this no matter whether I'm in monk mode or I'm out of monk mode. I adjust it to my monk mode sometimes if I have to, but it's basically something that I can keep consistent through any period of my life. I take it with me on vacation, and I use it on vacation still. Obviously, I'm not like working all on vacation, but I still may have some work tasks to do, and I still just write down the other things I'm doing for the day. So it can kind of morph and shift based on the period of life that you're in, but it can be consistent throughout each period of life so that you're always able to stay focused and committed to your goals, right? And then on the right-hand side, I write a journal entry every morning as part of my morning routine. But the main premise here is if you don't want to do the whole daily organizer thing, you just plan each day, right? So think about your goal, what it is you want to achieve, and then just plan each day the night before, specific to what things you can do to help you get closer to your goal. The next thing is the habit tracker. It is a similar process, but it is just slightly different, where you're going to write each of your habits across the top of a piece of paper, and then all the way down you're going to number it 1 through 31, or however many days are in the specific month that you're in. So obviously February, you only need 28. You write each day, number each day, and then you write a tick box under each of the habits. And so what this does is now each day you have let's say it's 5 different habits. You have 5 different tick boxes that you have to check by the end of each day. And all of these habits are specifically self-improvement habits designed to make you make more progress, right? Help you to move towards your goals, achieve your goals, whatever. But mainly they're just set there to help you progress towards what you're going for, and help you to just be in a more self-improvement lifestyle, right? So these habits aren't specific to your goal. These habits are specific to your self-development and making more progress in whatever you do. And then your goal, the daily organizer, is specific to achieving the goal, right? Your daily tasks are specific to achieving your goal. So you plan each day, but then you also have a habit tracker that's consistent every single day that you have to check off, right? So these two things put together give you a daily process to achieving your goals and moving towards your goals, and then also consistent habits to keep up on in order to make it easier to progress towards your goals, right? So the self-improvement habits, the goal-based habits, or activities, tasks, whatever. The next thing is monk mode. So if you want to achieve a goal quickly, or if you have a goal that you're really looking to achieve right now that you need to just lock in and get done, monk mode is perfect, because monk mode will allow you to take that goal, break it down into non-negotiable, daily non-negotiables, daily habits, and a timetable specifically designed to help you achieve that goal. So therefore, everything is going to be dedicated and focused on achieving that specific goal. So therefore, with a 30-day or even up to a 90-day period of monk mode, you can achieve almost, I'm not going to say any, but almost any goal. If you actually create it well enough, you design it so that it can actually get you to that goal, and you take action. So monk mode is great. Monk mode I'm not going to explain too in detail, but I will make a video. I have one on my channel, but it's old. So I'm going to make a video on how to do monk mode and everything like that, because I just got out of a previous monk mode period, and this was the most successful monk mode I've ever had. So I think I'm going to go ahead and teach you guys some of the tools I used in order to make that possible. So the next thing I have is visualization. So being able to visualize your goal, being able to visualize yourself having achieved that goal is very helpful on the journey, because when you can see yourself actually living out the goal that you have, well, now you have essentially a reference for what it's going to feel like, what it's going to be like, who you'll be, and who you'll need to become in order to achieve that goal. And so now you have this reference that isn't available for anybody else, really. You only have this reference, right? Because it is a visualization, it is a perception, a vision of who you are, who you will become in achieving your goal. And so this reference is something you can't get from anywhere else. You cannot possibly find on the internet anywhere a video or a book explaining who you'll be, who the best version of you will be, right? And so the only way to have this type of a reference is to visualize it. Think about when you get inspired by others. If you're an athlete like a snowboarder or a skateboarder or anything along those lines, you'll understand this very well. But any type of athlete might understand this, where if you get inspiration from somebody else, if somebody else does a trick that you really like and want to do, well, because you've seen them do it, you can now conceptualize how you can do it yourself. Visualization works the same way, except it's you visualizing and seeing the image of yourself doing exactly what you want to do in life, doing the thing you want to achieve, and therefore you have this reference for it, you have this visual for it, and now it's easier to go and achieve it. And the last thing that I have for achieving your goals is dopamine detoxing. You have to reduce instant gratification if you want to achieve any type of goal. You won't be able to work hard enough if you're still addicted to stimulation in order to actually break through all of these barriers and create enough momentum to really build up to and achieve your goal. Meaning you have to be on a dopamine detox. You can't be watching porn, you can't be smoking, you can't be doing all this bullshit and trying to work towards your goal. because all of the instant gratification activities will cut off your momentum at a certain point and not allow you to really build up and charge up enough power, enough energy in order to achieve that goal. So you need to reduce instant gratification and increase delayed gratification. The way you're doing it specific to a goal, though, is you're not just doing all of these self-improvement habits. All right, meditate here, read here, journal here. Your focus is on increasing delayed gratification activities specific to the goal you have. So if your goal is work, well, increase the delayed gratification activities, meaning increase your recording time, increase the time you spend scripting, increase the time you spend studying and researching videos, right? Because these are delaying gratification, but specifically delaying the gratification of the goal that you're trying to achieve. And then obviously if you still have extra time, then of course journal, of course read, but mainly focus on increasing the right kind of delayed gratification activities so that you can go and achieve your goal. And then also, if you have extra time available, keep reducing the instant gratification activities. I think I said instant gratification. I mean delayed gratification, right? But now, if you have extra time available, keep decreasing your instant gratification activities and keep increasing delayed gratification. So you have more time available. Well, don't use that time, even though it's still less time, don't use that time for the same instant gratification activities. Now use that real spare time for reading and everything else, right? So first cut it off majority by replacing it with the work tasks specific to your goal, and then replace the rest of those instant gratification activities, the joint at the end of a long work day or whatever bullshit like that. Replace that then with reading a book or writing and journaling. These things will be a lot more effective in helping you achieve your goal, because if you journal, let's say, you're thinking about your goal often, you'll be writing about the things you did throughout the day, you'll be reflecting. Or in general, it's just going to keep you in a flow state. It's just going to make you a more intelligent person, and therefore you'll be better at your work. But that is all I have for you guys for this video. This one kind of went on a little bit longer than I thought. I thought this would be a slightly quicker video, but I'm glad it did because I wanted it to be in detail and in depth. But, my throat does hurt a bit. I'm ready to go home and get some water in. But that is all I have for this video. If you guys want to join the Academy of Self-Mastery, go ahead and click the link in the description. Go pull up to my Instagram and send me a DM there, and I'll get you sorted from there. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, I'm still offering that coaching program, but we have a very limited amount of time left. I'm only going to be taking clients up until I release the Academy of Self-Mastery. So if you want to get one-on-one coaching from me, go ahead and DM me as well. But if you're not interested in either of those things and you enjoyed the video, go ahead and click subscribe. And that is all I got for you guys. And I'm out of here. Peace.